Well, it's a new year. That means a new season of Chase for the Championship, but we're following the ACC basketball teams. Each week, we're going to take a close look at each team up and down the standings. I am your host, Chris Clark. Let's get to this thing, shall we? It's only the first week of January, but, man, each team, hey, we're getting right to the end of this thing. No, we got more basketball. Stick with me now. But each ACC team has a couple of games under their belts already. And here's a look at the standings so far. Louisville on top right now. Yeah, the Cardinals 3-0 in conference play and lost just once in their non-conference slate. That's doing good. Nipping at their heels, Virginia and Duke, both 2-0. Clemson near the top two, playing some tough defense. The Tigers have won 3, but they also have an L to their name. And when we've got 4 teams all during the weekend at 2-1, Virginia Tech, NC State, Pittsburgh, and Georgia Tech they're all just a game out of first place at this early stage of the go-round. 3 teams are at an even 500. That's Syracuse and Florida State. They're both 1-1, with North Carolina coming in at an even 2-2. We got 4 teams have yet to pick up their first ACC win this year. Wake Forest 0-2, Notre Dame 0-3, and Boston College in Miami. Although some great teams, 0-4, but don't let the records fool you. Those squads got some players, and they've been giving some teams some straight-up runs, some fits, too. Moving on here, Clemson's only blemish in an otherwise perfect season so far is a loss at Virginia Tech. That was way back in December. Now the Tigers and Hokies find themselves tied at 19th in the AP poll. WSBA's Pete Yannity is covering Clemson. Pete.
The Clemson Tigers began the week as the highest-rated ACC team here in early January, tied with Virginia Tech at 19th in the AP poll and top 15 in both the NCAA net and RPI. And Brad Brownell's team on Tuesday night picked up a 3rd consecutive win in the conference using a similar formula as their previous 2 victories. Fall behind at the half, look a little bit sluggish offensively over the first 20 minutes, and then kick it in gear behind guard Nick Honor to eventually pull out a win. It was Honor's 3 in the final minute of regulation that tied the game against NC State Tuesday, forced overtime, and eventually Amir Sims and freshman P.J. Hall came through with big baskets in Clemson's 74-70 win. It's 9th overall on the season. And for Brad Brownell, well, another example of his team showing what the team's motto is: grit.
We got to really work at things, and we didn't do a good job of that for 20 minutes. We settled defensively, we settled offensively. We just didn't play with any personality. We were just playing. Thankfully, our guys woke up and we responded the way that you hope good teams do, and we were able to win another close game.
And now the Tigers try to do something that no Clemson team has ever done: win consecutive ball games in Chapel Hill. They'll have that opportunity as their contests against Tobacco Road teams continues on Saturday, almost a year to the day that Clemson, for the first time ever, picked up a victory on North Carolina's campus. Covering the Clemson Tigers, I'm Pete Yannity.
Thanks a lot, Pete. Clemson tipping off at UNC, like you said, Saturday at 7. Then they're going to head up to Syracuse on Tuesday for a 9 o'clock start. Keep with that UNC theme. North Carolina faced a Miami squad that's been depleted with injuries, but it ended up being a little bit more competitive than you'd expect. The Canes taking the heels down to the wire, rather. WNCN's Alyssa Ray has more. Alyssa.
As the saying goes, patience is a virtue. Well, after North Carolina's 7-4 start to the season, Roy Williams may be running out of it, but not according to him.
I've been the most patient I've ever been in my life. Now, the biggest question is, what do they think?
In UNC's 67-65 win over Miami Tuesday night, the Tar Heels starting guards didn't have a great outing. Freshman Caleb Love and R.J. Davis combined for just 5 points.
Caleb and R.J., looking at them now, they're 2 for 14. Those guys are going to be really good basketball players. They've got to decide to do it before I die, hopefully this year. But they're going to be really good basketball players, and they've just got to start making better decisions with their turnovers and at the same time make some more shots.
Junior Leaky Black picked up the slack, though. He was 4 for 4 from three-point range and scored a career-high 16 points. Despite his offensive success, Williams expects better play on the defensive end.
This was the best game that he shot the ball in the hole from outside, to say the least. But he can be much better defensively, and he can make better decisions with the ball.
I think it's just confidence. You know, I don't think we could play any worse than what we did in NC State game or, last year. So I feel like he's got to have confidence. North Carolina's going to have a game and we need to score some points. So I felt like it was my night.
But the hero of the night was Andrew Platek with a baseline bucket at the end of regulation to win the game.
So I drove baseline because I saw the angle on cross and I knew I could get a shot. I don't know if it was the best shot we could have gotten, but I mean, it went in and we won. So that's all there is to it.
Up next for the Tar Heels, a date with number 19 ranked Clemson in Chapel Hill on Saturday. Covering UNC, I'm Alyssa Ray.
Thank you, Alyssa. Tip-off for that Saturday game is at 7. Then it's a week off for the Tar Heels before their next opponent. At Louisville, undefeated in conference play, on top of the ACC standings, looking good, feeling good. WHT's Randall Parmley also looking good and feeling good, covering the Cardinals. Randall.
Well, it's been a hot start to the season for the Louisville Cardinals. Chris Mack's team is 7-1. The lone loss was a blowout at number 12 Wisconsin. Perhaps even more importantly, though, the Cards are still a perfect 2-0 in ACC play. Well, you can make that 3-0 now in the ACC after Wednesday night's win against 19th ranked Virginia Tech. U of L knocked off the Hokies 73-71. That's a nice win for Louisville, especially since Virginia Tech started the game on an 11-0 run. For Cards at double figures, Carlick Jones and David Johnson leading the way, each with 17. A good defensive effort for Louisville as well, holding Virginia Tech to under 43% shooting. So Louisville is now 8-1, and you have to think they're knocking on the door to being ranked in the top 25 in both polls. Up next for the Cards, it was supposed to be Georgia Tech on Saturday, but that game has been postponed due to COVID issues within the Yellow Jackets program. So Louisville's next game will now be at Wake Forest on the 13th. Covering the Louisville Cardinals, I'm Randall Parmley.
Thanks a ton, Randall. That game against Wake Forest, like I said, tipping off Wednesday evening at 6:30 there. And after an early season win over a top 5 team and a mostly lopsided run through their non-conference schedule, Virginia Tech finds themselves 19th in the country. And let's bring in WFXR's Jermaine Farrell live to take a closer look at the Hokies. And Jermaine, before we get to all that, your personality fills the screen and overflows. But have you been getting into some shape, man? I mean, I put on some pounds for the holidays, but brother, you looking good.
Well, the TV does add 10 pounds to you, so maybe that's what it is. You got one of those 4K TVs, starting to get a little size on me, but it's all good in the hood. So, but I'm sure you're looking good right now. I can't see you, but just have that vision of what Chris Clark looks like. I mean, picture's worth 1,000 words, so you're looking good as always. So.
Got 2 cameras shooting me because I put on about 20 since the holidays, but definitely looking good there, my friend. Looking good. Let's start with last night's game there. The Hokies came back and it came up just short at Louisville, losing to the Cardinals by just 2. And I mean, you think back on all the places you get 2 points, unbelievable. Tech almost made a furious comeback late. What kept them from getting over the top this time, Jermaine?
I just think there's times with Virginia Tech where you look at them, they get off to great starts, but it's all about finishing a game. If you double back to the Miami game, I mean, they were up by 17 points. Miami nearly came back, and they had a chance to win the game at a buzzer, but their shot came a little short. Same with Virginia Tech and Louisville, that matchup last night. Virginia Tech jumped out to an 11-0 lead. Like, these Hokies are rolling. Then, of course, Louisville, as Randall Parmley mentioned, they got on a 9-0 run, and they got hot with Carlick Jones, who a lot of guys in our neck of woods, we know he was the former Radford graduate player, went to Louisville doing things there. But I think it's all about finishing and shooting. I mean, Jalen Cone, 23 points. He had 6 of 12 three-pointers. But there are other guys that had to make contributions because overall, Virginia Tech shot 9 of 30 from three-point range, which is a big-time struggle. And, to only lose by 2, and now here's what's crazy about this, Chris, when you look at this series between Virginia Tech and Louisville. Old Metro Conference guys when, Louisville played in that Freedom Hall. But think about this. Last time Virginia Tech beat Louisville was 1991 when they were both in the Metro Conference battling. Tech's got a 17-game losing streak. Now, Tech will play Louisville later in the year, but they really got to do something about that streak. I mean, that's a crazy streak. I mean, it's been 30 years. I mean, I was in my junior year of high school the last time the Hokies beat the Cardinals.
I was right there with you. I was in high school sophomore year. I mean, if you want to take it back that far, man. Speaking of taking it back, let's go back just a little bit further now. The Hokies, I mean, they burst onto the scene with that big win over third-ranked Villanova just after Thanksgiving. We know they got the talent, the horses, and we know they can do it. I mean, did that win propel them to their success so far?
I think it's part of it. See, if you look at last year's team, they didn't have a lot of depth. This year they have depth, you know, Keve Lume, and of course Jalen Cone lighting it up, Hunter Couture playing well. So they have some pieces that they've really built around. They're a deeper team. Of course, if you remember, they were supposed to play the other team in Philadelphia. There's 5 Philadelphia schools. They were supposed to play Temple, but then Temple got the COVID issues. So then they made that deal overnight to play third-ranked Villanova. They said, hey, we'll play Villanova. What the heck? And, of course, what the heck? You get a win over then the third-ranked team. So I think what's helping this team, Chris, is just they have depth now. They are deeper, and they can do things that, you know, they probably couldn't do last year. Of course, a tough loss. But this team, I feel that, you know, they were picked 11th in the ACC, but I see this team could even challenge for the ACC championship because really this league, I mean, there's not really what you would call an alpha team in the league. So Virginia Tech has just as good a shot at winning the conference as any other team in the league.
No, you're exactly right about that. It really is all about how they adjust as far as players and as far as people getting hurt. And speaking of adjusting, everybody adjusting. I mean, you and I adjusting as well. How have the Hokies adjusted to playing in this pandemic so far this season, Jermaine?
Well, Chris, I tell you one thing, it has been a situation. I mean, Virginia Tech, you know, they really have had much of a struggle. But as we hear from head coach Mike Young, he talks about how Tech had to deal with some things, particularly they had their game against UVA, the Commonwealth Clash last Saturday. That was postponed. But overall, Mike Young talks about how the team is dealing with COVID and overall how he feels that they'll get through a season as well as all the other teams.
If there's ever a time, you better roll with the punches. This is it. And, you know, I mean, will it be our last postponement? Probably not. You know, you want to play, kids want to play, but we didn't have the opportunity. But again, we'll reschedule that, and hopefully that we can get to it the second time. We're going to get there. We're going to get college basketball is going to get to March. You know, I read a lot. I know that these next couple of weeks are concerning. I allowed my team to go home. I thought we had so many guys. Wabisa Beatty from Boston, Justin Mutch from New Jersey, Keve Aluma from the Eastern Shore of Maryland. That had not been home since July. You know, just until you're blue in the face. We talk to them all the time about choices and, you know, big gatherings of 10, 15 people doing what college kids do. We've been fortunate. You know, I read this morning that, you know, a couple other colleagues have issues within their program. Is it going to be choppy? It's been choppy already, but we're still playing 85, 86, 87% of games night in, night out. I hope that continues. I'm optimistic. I've always been a glass half full guy. I hope things work out.
And indeed, you know, we all hope it works out. But that's a good number there, Chris. 80 to 85% of the games being played. And, of course, you know, we also mentioned earlier, I didn't, but we've all mentioned in our shows that the NCAA tournament will be in Indianapolis area. So that's another bubble situation. So it is great what Virginia Tech is doing. But, yeah, whatever plans you make, just put it in pencil, put it on a dry erase board, because you can bet your bottom dollar that when you wake up the next day, there could be a change.
Oh, definitely. That's what a lot of coaches have been telling me. They get up, they look at their phone and cringe because they're just waiting for a trainer or somebody to tell them they can't have this or that. And it's hanging over everybody right now. And up next for the Hokies, 2 games in 3 days. back-to-back home games against Notre Dame and then Duke. Let's talk about the strategy they're going to try to use to slow down those Duke Blue Devils on Tuesday. What do you think there, Jermaine?
Well, I think that the thing is, I mean, you're right. You're playing 2 games in 3 days, but the advantage is you're at home. So obviously you don't have to worry about travel and all that. But if you look at Duke, I mean, Duke, they haven't played a game in a while. I mean, last night against Boston College, which we'll talk about later in the show, like you guys always do a great job, by the way. But the thing is, Duke hasn't played any games, so they're starting to get lathered up, trying to get going. And Virginia Tech, as we've seen over the last few years, they've had success against Duke. So I think it's going to be a great game. And again, Virginia Tech, they got to shoot that ball. And it seems like a theme from last year. You know, you live by the 3 and you die by the 3. So once Virginia Tech, if they get that 3-point shot going, Chris, they're unstoppable. But if they struggle a little bit from 3-point range, it could be a challenge. But I think this is an evenly matched game. And like I said, I mean, there are no gimmies in the ACC. But obviously, when you got Duke coming in, and obviously on Sunday they got Notre Dame, another key matchup. It's going to be some fun basketball the next couple of games at Castle Coliseum. But yeah, Virginia Tech and Duke, that's going to be some tall timber, as they say.
Definitely. Jermaine Farrell, everybody, the man, the myth, the legend. Thanks for hanging out there, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Chris, thank you so much. Happy New Year to you and your family and everyone down in the Tar Heel State. And keep up the good work, because we are chasing a championship, or is it chase for a championship? I butchered the words. But yeah, you do it now. I'm going to toss it to you. It's your world. I'm just living in it.
As long as you're a part of it, I know it's going to be A-OK. Jermaine Farrell, everybody, thanks a lot there, man. Appreciate it. Duke Blue Devils, meanwhile, they're still trying to find their way just a little bit. They've been off for the last 20 days before yesterday without young star Jalen Johnson, and last night without their head coach Mike Krzyzewski, who's in quarantine due to COVID contact tracing. I mean, it's the first time K has actually missed a game since January 13th, 2018, when he got sick. Luckily for the Blue Devils, they got another good game from Matthew Hurt. He recorded his 3rd career double-double, 2nd this season, 17 points and 11 rebounds. John Scher took over coaching duties there with K sidelined, and Wendell Moore came back with a vengeance. I mean, he'd been having some trouble the last few games, maybe feeling the pressure, not sure, but he was feeling good last night, scoring a game-high, career-high, matching 25 points, 8 of 13 shooting, including 2 of 3 from three-point land, 7 of 8 from the foul line, working it out.
Man, it feels great. I mean, the biggest thing for me is my teammates were behind me the whole time. Even when I was going through the struggle, they always had my back. They kept believing in me. They kept giving me the opportunity. And I'm glad to make them proud.
There's been a lot of noise, for these guys, whether it's on social media or elsewhere, and he was just able to block out the noise and kept working. And Wendell's always been at his best when he's playing defense. He's talking, he's leading, and I thought to start the game he did that, and then his offense came along as well. So can't tell you how proud we are of him. He saved us throughout the entire game.
Blue Devils going to stay at home for a showdown with Wake Forest on Saturday at noon. Then they'll travel to Virginia Tech for that potential top 25 matchup we were just talking about with Jermaine on Tuesday at 7. That one should be a great one. Meanwhile, Wake Forest has yet to pick up their first ACC win of the year. But as WGHP's Kevin Conley reports, the Demon Deacons feel like they're just getting started after seeing all but one of their games scheduled in December canceled or postponed.
Many of the strange happenings from 2020 have carried over to 2021 in terms of ACC basketball. New Wake Forest head coach Steve Forbes is currently experiencing those and then some in his first season at Wake Forest. COVID-19 has limited practice time. The Deacons could not hold a full team practice from November 29th to December 20th. Wake's roster has changed as well. Tariq Ingram, who was the leading scorer in the first game of the year, is out for the season, recovering from the coronavirus. Transfer Ian DeBose is out indefinitely as he recovers. Wake hopes to have him back at some point this season. Point guard Carter Witt graduated high school early, so instead of playing high school this year, he's now in the ACC.
I think he's done a really good job, and I think he'll get better and better each game. He's got great attitude. Players like him. He gets along well. So we are changing. It's just hard to change. It's hard to do all these things on the run.
Forbes is pretty open and expresses his feelings honestly. It's been tough at Wake Forest, and he's being tough on himself as he tries to keep his team competitive.
One thing about me is I'm hard-headed. You know, if it's not working, then we got to fix it, you know, and the definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing over and over, hoping it's going to change when it's not. And so I got to find the best way for our players to have a chance to win. And that's been the hard part, not having any non-conferences. I don't know until I see it.
So the Demon Deacons remain a work in progress. Covering Wake Forest, I'm Kevin Conley.
Thank you, Kevin. Good stuff as always. The Deacons will take a quick trip to Duke for a noon tip-off Saturday afternoon. Then they'll return home for a matchup with Louisville on Wednesday, that one at 6:30. And after not playing for nearly 3 weeks in December, Virginia had another game postponed last weekend. But as WRIC's Natalie Calabit reports, the Cavaliers came back strong against Wake Forest. Natalie?
It's been a challenging week for the Virginia Cavaliers. Saturday's game against Virginia Tech was postponed due to COVID-19, and the team entered Wednesday's game versus Wake Forest still missing a few players and without all of their assistant coaches.
It was an interesting time, but we just talked about banding together. Without Austin Castro, without Cody, without Casey, we knew we were going to have to come together.
And that's just what Tony Bennett's team did, beating the Demon Deacons 70-61. Sam Hauser led a balanced effort with 16 points and 11 rebounds. Bennett was pleased with his team's start on offense.
We were pretty good in the first half. We got the shots we needed. But defensively, we had a lot of trouble. Again, they were hitting shots. We had some breakdowns.
But some fixes in the locker room and a strong effort from veteran Kihei Clark solved the problems.
Kihei decided to really pick up the ball, and everybody just, with some adjustments, I think that helped really just stepped up.
The 22nd ranked Cavaliers will hit the road this weekend to face Boston College. Tip-off on Saturday is at 2 o'clock. Covering Virginia, I'm Natalie Calabat.
Thank you, Natalie. Good stuff as always. Closer look at what's coming up next for the Cavs after Saturday afternoon game with Boston College. They'll head back home for a rare weekday afternoon game. Hey, it's COVID. Roll with the punches. They host Virginia on Wednesday at 2:30. And, you know, a quick check of the record says the Boston College Eagles are, to quote Charles Barkley, terrible. 2-8 doesn't jump off the screen. But when you look at the opponents, I mean, you understand the game, you know, with Minnesota, top 10 opponent, top 20. Then Syracuse, NC State, tough game there with Louisville. I mean, it kind of changes the perspective a little bit. And last night was another close, but not quite for BC. The Eagles hit their first 3 shots from the floor, all threes, to take and maintain an early lead, but could not make it stick. The Eagles had lost 6 of 7 coming in, with the only win coming against Maine December 22nd. They played Minnesota and NC State close, like we said, once again, could not close out down the stretch. They led by 8 at the break, got a great game from C.J. Felder. He finished with 24 points for the Eagles, while Quinnipiac grad transfer Rich Kelly had a season-high 16 points, but again, couldn't close out at Duke and Cameron. It's a tough place to play. You may have heard of it. Coach Christian summed it up after the game.
You know, we were just a little careless, made some tough decisions, especially early in the second half with it, to get them momentum, I thought. And then I thought we did a great job fighting our way back. But turnovers, when you turn the ball over 21 times at Cameron, it's tough to win. Especially when I thought we had a pretty good rhythm on offense the whole night. You know, we got the matchups we tried to get, and you know, we just got to get a little stronger with the ball.
The Eagles stay at home for 2 games in the next week. They host Virginia on Saturday at 2, and then Miami comes to Chestnut Hill on Tuesday night at 7. And Florida State just inside the top 25 right now, but they've now had 3 games in a row canceled or postponed. The ACC announced just hours ago that their game against Pitt scheduled for Saturday will not be happening. As WMBB's Emma Stamps reports, the Seminoles have to hit. They just got to hit the floor for a game in 2021.
The Florida State Seminoles have not yet played a game in 2021 due to COVID-19 within the program. On Saturday, the Noles had their game against Duke postponed due to a positive test within the program. Quarantining and contact tracing led to the Noles having a second straight ACC game postponed, as the Noles' set game with Syracuse for Wednesday was called off as well. Florida State has not played since its loss to Clemson on December 29th.
You just got to maintain flexibility. During these times. It's a moving target, and nothing's really exact, and you've got to be flexible and patient and understanding these are different types of times that we're operating in, and you just got to be fluid and able to go with the flow.
In this week's AP poll, the Noles still sit at 25th. Reporting on Florida State, I'm Emma Stamps.
Thank you, Emma. Great stuff as always. Florida State head up to Pittsburgh for an afternoon game on Saturday. That one tips at 2, and then it's back home to face NC State on Wednesday. That one tips off at 7. Now, get this. Down 4 players, an assistant coach, several managers playing a rescheduled game in the middle of the afternoon with a pair of managers that have never traveled, by the way, with you. You could understand if head coach Jeff Capel and the Pitt Panthers just mailed this one in, but no. That would not be their style. No, it wouldn't. Instead, Capel and company found a way to beat Syracuse by 3 and notch their 6th win of this very awkward season. Didn't look good early, though, as the 'Cuse jumped out to a 14-point lead. Halftime deficit at 14, rather. Matching, that's the 3rd largest halftime deficit overcome to win a game in program history for Pitt, by the way. And they clawed their way back in the end. Audis Toney tipped in a missed shot from Theo Horton to secure Pitt's lead. And a bad inbound play led to a 63-60 W for the Panthers.
I'm really proud of our team because we showed a lot of fight, we showed a lot of grit, we showed a lot of toughness, and we were resilient. I thought one of the main reasons we won is that we dominated the glass.
I mean, we know what type of team we are. We always play hard to the end. And they slipped up, and then they stopped playing for a second, and they turned it on. They turned it off and on in the second half, and then we just kept it on and going, and we just kept sticking to our plan, kept getting stops, and then came out with a win.
And with Pitt's game against Florida State postponed, the next time the Panthers will be on the court will be Wednesday night at 8:30 when they visit Georgia Tech. And Notre Dame has yet to crack the win column in ACC play so far, but as WTTV's Dave Griffiths reports, Irish head coach Mike Bray is still especially impressed with one of his players.
Last Saturday, Notre Dame head coach Mike Bray described this season in a way many coaches describe an injured player. It's week to week. Bray was soon proven right, as the Irish then lost Wednesday's scheduled game against Georgia Tech due to a positive COVID-19 test within the Yellow Jackets program. When the Irish return to the court, they'll be relying on the continued emergence of center Nate Laszewski. Last week, for the first time in his career, Laszewski scored 25 points in back-to-back games, both of them ACC games at that, against Virginia and North Carolina. Mike Bray says he thought Laszewski would make a significant jump in development this season, but even still, the young big man is exceeding those expectations.
I told you the thing that blew my mind was I hadn't seen him for 5 months. And how his body changed and the strength training that he did long distance. And that has really set him up. But right now he really believes. And I mean, you know, he's a shoo-in at this point for the most improved player in the ACC.
Get me the spots that I'm comfortable in, you know, that we practiced before. And then, you know, just being confident, you know, that's kind of Coach Bray's message to me, just, you know, step up and shoot it and make it.
A road trip east awaits the Irish now with visits to Virginia Tech and Virginia on tap this week. Covering Notre Dame for Chase for the Championship, I'm Dave Griffiths.
Thank you, Dave. Looking like a tough week on the road for Notre Dame after they square off with Virginia Tech on Sunday night at 6. They'll be back at Virginia for a Wednesday afternoon game. Tip-off in Charlottesville set for 2:30. And what was supposed to be a big week for Georgia Tech has turned into another COVID-era wait-and-see as the Yellow Jackets games with Notre Dame Wednesday was postponed, but it didn't get any better for their game. This coming Sunday was postponed the next day due to COVID-19 related protocols within Tech's program. A makeup date has not been determined for this. The school has paused all basketball activities until they can get a handle on this thing, as per, like we said, ACC protocols. We talked with Coach on Monday about the way the schedule can change on a moment's notice. His words proved prophetic. Listen to what he had to say.
We don't touch our food, for example. We have one server who's serving. I mean, they serve everything. We don't touch the plates or anything until the very end, until they give it to us. You know, having single rooms. You know, usually you have 2 people in a room. We now all have single rooms. Everyone's has their own room because you're trying to eliminate, you know, contact on between each other. I mean, there's just where are you sitting on the plane? I mean, I would never have thought we would have a seating chart of the bus, the plane, you know, after games, when you're done playing, you know how long it takes you to leave because you can't eat on the bus or the plane.
Coach talking about all the things they go through just to have an away game make you really scratch your head when they come down with problems. But to know that Georgia Tech is on top of things down there definitely Makes you feel better. Now, it was on that same day we asked Notre Dame head coach Mike Brey about game planning for teams in this day and age. Obviously, they didn't play Tech, and they also had a game set up with UNC in a matter of hours last week, a couple weeks back, rather. But you still figure they put in a ton of work for game plans, right? Maybe not. Check out Coach. He cut right to the chase for us.
Scouting is a total waste of time right now, and I've told our staff that. As a matter of fact, even in a real season, that can be so overrated. You know, it really can. And I know as I've gotten to be a more experienced coach, done less with the other team and more with our own group.
I gotta say, these Zoom calls, they get real honest real quick. They get comfortable, and you start finding out all kinds of stuff. Mike Brey was always a great guy, but he just went up a couple points in my book after that one. Moving on, here, NC State came up just short of Clemson this week, losing on the road to the Tigers in overtime. But as WNCN's Todd Gibson reports, the Wolfpack still full of confidence.
Shaquille Moore has caught fire after a somewhat slow start to his college career. It all began 3 games ago in a 3-point win over arch-rival North Carolina when he scored 17 points, a real confidence booster for the Greensboro native.
You know, hard work, you know, just hard work. I put in work every day. I'm in the gym every day after practice hours. I think it's important to not only get better with your team, but, you know, work on yourself. And I think the confidence comes from, you know, me taking the time to, you know, work when nobody's paying attention, you know, work when nobody's looking. As long as I keep putting in work, trusting my work, keep having that confidence, you know, just hard work, that's all. It'll keep the confidence going. It'll keep everything rolling for me.
He's a great player. He's a dog, and it just shows his heart that it doesn't matter what age he is. He's ready to play and impact the game.
I think I told you guys, it's really hard for us right now to get, you know, guys who are McDonald's All-Americans. So we have to take guys that people kind of overlook, but they're NC State guys. They're tough. They punch the clock. They're hard workers. And he's put a lot of work into becoming a better offensive player. You know, give him credit for putting extra work in.
The Wolfpack is coming off a road loss at Clemson, which ended a 3-game winning streak, and now depleted Miami comes to town on Saturday. Covering the Wolfpack in Raleigh, I'm Todd Gibson.
Thank you, Todd. NC State looking to return to winning ways Saturday afternoon, like you said. They're going to host Miami. That tip-off is at noon. Then they're got a trip to Florida State for a 7 o'clock tip-off. That one is at Wednesday night, so a couple of good ones coming up. And they have always said the things that won't kill you will make you stronger. Well, if that's the case, Miami Hurricanes going to be Supermen in no time. Canes have lost their last 3 games by a total of, get this, 5 points. 2-point close call with the Virginia Tech team, a 1-point loss to Clemson, and another 2-point close call with UNC this week. I mean, they had the lead with under 10 seconds to play, the Canes did. In the UNC game, gut check, as they were without not 1, but 4 key players, and Chris Likes, Cameron McGusty, Rodney Miller, and Sam Wardenberg. Miami didn't handle the press well against UNC at all. Despite this, though, they kept it close. They took the lead, but just couldn't close it out.
We've just had so much adversity with injuries. And the most challenging part is being able to prepare for an opponent. Like Cam McGusty practiced yesterday, but couldn't even go today. Chris Likes hasn't been on the court in over a month now. So those are our 2 leading returning scorers, and Sam Wardenberg's out for the season.
We just trying to keep a positive mindset and positive energy around us, because the last 3 losses has been within 5 points. So we know we're there. We just need something to get us over the hump.
Losing these close games is what's going to get us over the hump. Knowing what we have to do when that clock is winding down and there's 2 minutes left, and the seriousness we have to play with, the intensity we have to play with, and having younger guys and stuff like that. There's no better way of learning than from experience. And I feel like we'll be able to really soon get over that hump.
4 main guys out, still keeping it close. That's a squad right there. It's scary when they get to be full strength. Miami hits the road for 2 this week. They got that Saturday matinee at NC State at noon, like we talked about, and then they're going to go all the way up to Boston College Tuesday night. Tip-off of that one is at 7 o'clock. Meanwhile, Syracuse led for nearly the entire game against Pittsburgh on Wednesday night. The Orange were ahead by as many as 18 points. But as WSYR Steve and Fonte reports, they let Pitt come all the way back in a theme that's becoming common for the Orange this year. Steve?
Well, these things have a way of evening themselves out. If you continue to play with fire, sooner or later you're going to get burned. In just the first month of the season, we saw the Orange win 3 close games against lesser opponents in which they played poorly against Bryant, Northeastern, and Buffalo. Wednesday, they did it again against Pittsburgh, and this time their luck ran out. No Barama Sidibe. He felt soreness in his knee after practice on Tuesday. He was held out as a precaution, and the Orange missed him dearly. Pittsburgh finished with 20 offensive rebounds. The Panthers were plus 16 on the glass and plus 16 in points in the paint as the Orange squandered an 18-point lead, coming up short in the final seconds, 63-60.
Bottom line is we got shots that we can make and need to make, and we didn't. So, that was really, at the end of the day, that was the game. Our defense wasn't great, but it was good enough. But our offense, we just didn't make shots.
We didn't play a game. We're just practicing. It's not the same as a game. But, it hurt us a lot. But, we need to be better at the end of the game. And it was 100% our fault.
That loss snapped a 7-game winning streak for the Orange against Pittsburgh. Next up for SU is a visit from another old Big East rival. Georgetown comes to the Dome on Saturday for an 8 p.m. tip. The Hoyas gave one away themselves Wednesday night, blowing a double-digit lead at Butler. Patrick Ewing's squad is just 3-7 on the season. Covering Syracuse, I'm Stephen Fonte.
Good stuff, Steve. After that game against their old Big East rivals, there's going to be a lot of orange on the court when Syracuse hosts Clemson on Tuesday. That one tips off at 9. Well, we won't be able to attend a lot of these games. That doesn't mean that we can't call up our friend there and place a friendly wager on some of them. And with this being our first look at the ACC basketball odds, let's go ahead and bring in Jason Logan with Covers.com and get a big picture look at this thing. And by that, I mean the big dance here. Jason, how do things with the ACC stack up in the odds to win the NCAA tournament this year?
Yeah, the 2021 season does look like a bit of a down year in terms of the ACC, at least through that first month and a half, and it's kind of reflected in the odds to win the tournament. Books have teams like Gonzaga plus 350, Baylor plus 700, Villanova plus 900. Those guys are at the top of the board. And then you got to scroll down the list a ways to find the first ACC contender. And Duke is that first ACC contender on the March Madness odds. Duke at plus 2,000 is the ACC's best shot to win the national title, according to the odds makers. Now, the 20-to-1 price is an exact reflection of the Blue Devils' chances, especially since they've had kind of a bumpy start to the season. Duke is the 10th overall favorite in terms of the odds, but a lot of that has to do with the money that has come in and been wagered on Duke to win the national tournament. The Blue Devils are a very, very popular program, a lot of loyal followers, and those guys are going to bet that team blind every year to win the national title. So that action is going to push them up the board, kind of regardless of what their current form looks like. And as you scroll down a little further, other ACC schools in the mix to win the national championship: North Carolina plus 2,300 and Florida State and Virginia both at plus 2,500.
Now, ACC teams have been in action since late November, believe it or not. In terms of success against the spread, which programs have been profitable out of the gate, if you will, and which ones are costing basketball bettors money?
Clemson has been actually the best bet against the spread in the ACC through its first 10 games of the season. They've gone 6-3-1 ATS, that one push coming in that 74-70 overtime win over NC State as 4-point home faves on Tuesday. The Tigers defense, that's what's getting the job done here. They're allowing only 57.6 points per game. They sit #1 in the country in adjusted defensive efficiency at KenPom, and that's a very important advanced metric. We always see those Final Four teams that make the qualifying round to that last shot at the national title. Those guys always rank high in that defensive efficiency metric. So maybe circle Clemson if they get into the tournament. The ACC program's burning through bankrolls early on, and we got to go back to Duke. They're just 1-5 ATS in the first 6 games, including a 1-point win over Boston College as 11.5-point home favorites Wednesday, and that was with Coach K on the sideline, not on the sidelines due to the COVID precautions. The Blue Devils are always going to kind of come with an extra tax on the point spread because of their popularity. But this year, there's no Cameron Crazies there to give them that crazy home court edge. And also, too, it's been hard for this team to find any momentum. Wednesday's win was Duke's first game in 3 weeks. So, and Coach K knows that this is a marathon and not a sprint. So he's going to have this team, fine-tuned and peaking just before the postseason at the right time. But as far as betting the Dukies right now, I'm not doing it.
And looking at the elite talents in the conference here, are there any ACC standouts near the top of the odds to win the Wooden Award for college basketball's most outstanding player?
Much like the NCAA tourney odds, you kind of have to go further down the list to spot the first ACC contender when it comes to the Wooden Award, and that's Garrison Brooks out of North Carolina at plus 8,000. The Tar Heels, they stumbled a bit there to start ACC play, but they've won back-to-back contests heading into this weekend's huge matchup with Clemson. But Brooks hasn't exactly been leading the charge. The 6'10" senior has posted point totals of just 6, 5, and 9 over his past 3 games. He's shooting a dismal 7 for 21 in that span. And also, too, he's failed to get to the foul line in 2 of those 3 games. But he did go to the stripe, went 4 for 6 from the foul line in the win over Miami Tuesday. So they need him to be a lot more aggressive inside. Sam Hauser of Virginia, he's the next ACC talent down the board at plus 10,000, along with Duke's Matthew Hurt, who leads the ACC in scoring. He's at plus 12,000 to win the Wooden Award.
Thank you, as always. Jason Logan crunching the numbers, so, well, I don't have to. And the NCAA is giving Indiana an exclusive ticket to showcase March Madness, and the basketball craze state can't wait to take center stage this spring. The NCAA announced this week that showcase event, the Division I men's basketball tournament, going to be played entirely in or near Indianapolis. The hope is to limit the possibility that the coronavirus pandemic cancels the wildly popular and, let's not forget, lucrative tournament for a second consecutive season. While there's no guarantee they're going to make the big dance, the ACC coaches we talked with, they all had their opinions that ran the full spectrum.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. I'm glad that they're talking about how to make the tournament work right now. And to me, that's always a positive thing, because, this conversation could be coming towards the middle of February.
I would have been happier to start the season in January, play only conference games, and then move the tournament in relation to when we thought it was best to play it, and for 1 year include all the teams in the NCAA, because you don't know what's going to happen.
I really don't care if they play the tournament in Saturn, on Saturn, or in Indianapolis. Hopefully we're a part of it, and we do our part to get there, and wherever they put it, they put it.
I heard Saturn had good courts. Who knew? Now, we've seen the season get started, but the question is, can we see it through? I mean, with postponements, rescheduling, some games being made up later, some games might not get made up with the way the season is going. Some teams just don't have the openings. I mean, the question is, are we going to see the season end in a normal fashion? Some coaches wanted to push it back, like you heard. Some didn't even want to play it at all. And with the new year and the calendar rolling over to January, we asked the guys on the sidelines, can we finish the season? Here's what a few of the coaches had to say.
Each program and the sport as a whole should continuously make assessments as to what's best. Basically, that's what programs are doing.
I'm relatively optimistic. I know we're going to have setbacks. I don't think anybody thought that we wouldn't. We're going to have more cancellations, postponements. That's part of it.
We're getting kind of good at this with shutting down, delaying, come back later. It's crazy, but the opportunity for these kids to compete and play some games, I think that's really important. But I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure we can make it.
And a big shout out to the people and the coaches that do these interviews for us and what they have to go through. This is Georgia Tech head coach Josh Pastner. He was coming from one meeting, driving to another, and doing his best, man, to get that FaceTime in so we could have video. He couldn't hear, so in between answers, he'd put his phone up to his ear and listen in old school style, making it work. God bless you, Coach. Thank you. We see the hustle, and we salute you for it. Also, might want to get a Q-tip in there, buddy. You look like you might pull a sugar daddy out if you did there. But, hey, again, thank you for taking the time with us, all those coaches and all the producers and everybody behind the scenes and all the reporters, too. Thank you for joining us for Chase for the Championship. Remember, you can watch a brand-new episode every Thursday night right here at 7. And until next week, get out there and watch some basketball. See you guys next Thursday.